Welcome to my single parents project presentation. Today we're going to talk about all of the things I've been doing for the last 2.5 months on this project from beginning to end. First, I started with research, and I find out that being a single parent is extremely challenging. In fact, one parent told me it feels like having 7 full-time jobs to be a single parent. The goal of the research was to discover the unique needs, challenges, and problems single parents have in order to uncover opportunities to help them. And I had 4 key questions. What are the most challenging aspects of being a single parent? How do single parents find assistance and who do they go to for help when it's needed? What hurdles do single parents face when growing and maintaining their support network? And finally, what hurdles do single parents face when making and maintaining friendships? So, for this research, I read academic papers, articles, and blog posts, and watched YouTube videos about single parenting and parents. And for the primary research, I conducted a survey and did several interviews. The screening criteria for my research were that participants needed to be a single parent and were currently living with their children. For the survey, I had 82 respondents, and for the interviews, I had 10 participants. And I also analyzed and synthesized the research with affinity clustering and a persona. Now, this persona or profile of a single parent is named Jill. And you can pause the video here to read everything that there is to know about Jill. However, only a subset of all these points describing Jill are unique to being a single parent. Most of them, in fact, are shared characteristics or traits from coupled parents. So, what makes Jill unique? Well, first of all, she feels isolated, but she's not lonely. When she takes care of her son, it's ultimately on her shoulders. She's often alone in decision making and takes responsibilities for all outcomes for herself and her family. And she knows a few single parents who truly get what she's going through, but it's really hard to find other single parents to commiserate with. And there's no real way to take a break from parenting. There are no sick days. She's always on. So, a little bit highlighting parts of the research. The number one person, that type of person that adults go to for help and support when in trouble, are people go to their spouse. Well, with single parents, that's not the case. So, the second most common or popular type of person that adults go to for help and support are friends. So, that would be including single parents. They go to their friends before they go to their family. Now, the typical adult in the United States has 3 to 5 friends, and that's their friend group, but also a close support network. So, why is it so difficult for adults to make friends? Well, the second most common reason for not making friends is a lack of time. And you know who doesn't have a lot of time? Busy parents. 56% of busy parents self identify as being extremely busy. So, in summary, there's less time available to single parents for themselves, let alone other people. Less time equals less time for friendships, and without as many friendships in their social circle and support network, there's less support. So another part of my research was taking a look at how the single parent population was being served, and it turns out that existing solutions for single parents are lacking. They only exist on iOS and Android. Uh, Dating apps for single parents and co-parenting apps for single parents. Those are the only apps available to single parents. Now, on the left of this spreadsheet, in the first column, you can see the top 14 issues that single parents deal with, and the single parent and single parents deal with all of these in the red column in the middle, and in blue on the right in the third column are the 2 areas out of the 14 that apps cater to, which means there are 12 topics or issues that are being ignored on the market today. So I'm hoping to design there to create a blue ocean strategy and be differentiated in the market. Now, if single parents don't go to apps for those 12 different issues, they go to Facebook groups first, then Reddit, and third is forums. But there's problems with social media. When you're in a single parent group, yes, that's helpful, but you get a giant feed with extraneous information. There's no way to narrow down the feed of a group to the topics and people that single parents care about. There are also, these groups are fragmented, meaning if they're in a local group, they have no insight or access to the information of a global group. And global groups are national groups for single parents. So there's a lot of missed opportunities for multiple people to meet and talk. And also, when on Facebook, for instance, single parents are distracted by the feed and notifications of other content outside of the single parent group. Now, forums, which is the third most popular place that parents go for support, is not very popular as compared to Facebook or Reddit, but it's more popular than apps. And many forums are on older technology and may not be mobile friendly. There's also fragmentation, so they can't see into other forums if they're in only one. And also, forums are very rigid, which in that they lock people into pre-described categories for posts. So this is where single parents are going, but there's a lot of places or ways that these places could be improved. So through my primary and secondary research, I did some affinity clustering, as you can see to the right. And you can see that the first four columns of sticky notes have more sticky notes. Those were the most prominent, most frequently reoccurring themes and issues that I came across. And the four categories of the top four issues that single parents were dealing with is lack of time is number one. Number two, seeking out other single parents. And three, being single is isolating. And four, matching via children. And I'll go into what these four mean in just a moment. So the first key insight is that single parents have little to no time for themselves, let alone other people. What I heard from another single parent is, when I have my kids, there is so much I need to do and take care of that I can barely go to the bathroom. Key insight number two, other single parents provide better advice and support than other people do. What I heard from a single parent is, it is quite important to have single parents in my support network because they understand the day-to-day struggles more because they face the same challenges. Key insight number three, parenting alone is isolating, or as I call it, going solo. With the responsibility of raising children and work plus everything else in life, there is no one to share these burdens with, is what I heard from a single parent. And key insight four, it's advantageous to connect with parents who have children of similar ages. What I heard from a single parent is, it's helpful to connect with parents who have children who are around the same age or even the same gender. They are going through the same things in parallel. So the challenge questions, or how might we's, that I came up with as a result of doing all of this research, I came up with three. How might we help single parents find and or make time to connect with other single parents? Two, how might we make it easier for single parents to connect to their children of the same age and while making connections with other adults? And number three, how might we make it easier for single parents to ask for and get help, support, and the advice that they need? So I took those how might we challenge statements and I brainstormed on solutions using no framework or method in particular. I just put on some music and started writing my ideas down verbally to get them out of my head as a way to organize my thoughts and communicate all these ideas that I had been inspired by but put into the back burner while I was doing research. So, in order to come up with useful and interesting and innovative ideas, I wanted to get inspired by what's being done on the internet in terms of support groups. So, Parallel Parents, which is the name of the app I will have created by the end of the project, It gets inspired by Facebook, Reddit, forums, dating apps, and other social media. So, what I did was I downloaded, installed, and signed up for all of these things, all of these apps that you see to the right, and the ones in the Venn diagram. And I took down notes about interesting implementations of features, and they're all riffing off of each other and are all inspired by each other because um, social networking is a hot topic for or focus for a lot of app makers these days. Just think of what's happening with Twitter and Mastodon, for instance. And I came after being inspired by these apps. I came up with 12 different ideas. You can see here in the spreadsheet the second column, concept name. So I named my idea. And then in the middle column, I had a description and a tagline for each idea. And then I ranked or voted or prioritized each idea based on reach, impact, and my confidence in the idea. And all of those had a scale from 1 to 5 with a maximum score of 15. And as you can see here in green, number 9 and number 10, those ideas scored the highest. So I moved forward with these two ideas and combined them together into one concept. So you can read more about each idea that I picked here. And then a summary here is the needle in the haystack idea. Tame the feed is the tagline. And the description is parents have the ability to alter the feed to increase or decrease the amount of posts seen and can control the types of posts. It's a lot easier to make a large social network smaller than a smaller social network bigger. So this allows the user to tailor their feed based on their tastes, preferences, and needs. And then the second unique feature about Parallel Parents is called Dual Profile. And the tagline is Parents and Children Together, United as One. The description is creating connections between single parents and their children involves two layers of compatibility. Combining both into one profile makes it easier to see the full picture. So picture a social network with a profile, and each person's profile includes a parent information and children information combined with a customizable feed. So that's pretty much what Parallel Parents is based off of, is these two ideas. So what I did was at this point I wanted to get validation on my idea, and one way that tech companies get validation for early stage ideas is an example is Amazon. What their product managers do is they write fake press releases for future products, and they use that uh, press release as a North Star vision document, and they share it with users, they share it internally, and they get feedback and iterate on the press release based on feedback very early on. This is just words. It's really easy to change and update a press release. And some product managers within Amazon iterate 10 to 20 times before they start getting started with the project. So what I did was I shared this um, press release with several single parents and asked them to give me feedback and tell me how interested they are with the idea. And I got enough positive reinforced feedback. And I know it was only 4 people, but that's the max that I could find at the time. But their encouragement and positive reactions encouraged me to go forward with the project and not having to pivot or backtrack to figure out what to do next. In order to validate my idea, I not only wrote a press release, I also created a value proposition canvas. And what I was trying to do is double check to see if the pain relievers in my solution and the gain creators in my solution map to the gains and pains of the user, and am I helping them get their jobs to be done. And I was kind of excited by the press release, but scared that this exercise would invalidate my direction. And fortunately, again, I got positive feedback on the direction of my project. So with the press release and the value proposition canvas, um, under my belt, I felt very confident moving forward. So now that I'm going through the phases of making an idea more tangible, I'm going to start doubling down on my vision because of the feedback that I got. And in order to figure out what functionality my solution should have, now that I'm going down the right track, is to create a list of possible features. And then, similarly to how I rated the concepts earlier, I'm choosing features and functionality and I'm ranking them under must have, should have, or could have. And this methodology uh, simplifies the decision making process by knowing like what the features are that are higher priority, and those are in the first release. So typically at this point, a person would design a minimum viable product, and that's what you see here in the green left column. And I did design for the MVP, and it got the job done. I thought it answered my how might we questions from before. But basically, I realized although it was functional, there's people would not leave Facebook or Reddit for this solution. So I needed to have rough feature parity with Google Groups, or at least the main functionality that mattered most to single parents. So after creating the and voting on the must-haves for the MVP, I decided to do what's not as commonly known as a MLP, or a minimum lovable product. And these are the should have features. And those entice users to leave Facebook and come to my platform. So for release one or the prototype of this app, I combined the minimum viable product feature set in green with the minimum lovable product features in yellow. And I left out the could have features. So this together is the prototype, and these are the roughly 15 or so um, main features and user stories that encompass the functionality of the app. So speaking of user stories, we're going to talk about user stories and task flows next. So I created user stories in a format that is typical in tech teams and product teams, in a way that engineers would understand. As in the format is, as a user, I want X so I can do Y and accomplish Z. So I wrote down 15 of these user stories, and that's just taking requirements and feature sets and putting them in a more user centric voice. And so this is from a top down perspective, the range of the functionality that I'm trying to achieve in the prototype of this app. So next, I wanted to take stock of the fact that a user is going to be going through these 15 different use cases, interacting with different parts of the program. I wanted to visualize how complex, how simple uh, are the user flows. And so you can pause here to take a look, and at the left, you can see that there are a lot of short, fairly linear flowcharts. And what that means is my app has many actions or functions, but in order to activate those functions and conduct those actions, there are very few steps to accomplish your goals. So this made it, the alternative to this is branching and nested flows, which can be really hard to design for and develop for. So this kind of seems like overall pretty easy and simple design. So this is the way that I looked at users completing tasks at a conceptual level. And now we're going to go into the UX and UI level. So what I did next is I installed, signed up for, and launched Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, Quora, and LinkedIn on my phone. And I mapped out where the functionality was in the UI, in the Chrome. What are the buttons? What are the icons? How many are in the top? How many are in the bottom? Are things labeled or things icons? And so I basically assumed that uh, single parents use all of these social networks, so I wanted it to feel familiar, whatever I created. Ultimately, I picked something that's very similar to LinkedIn with a little bit of Facebook and a little bit of Reddit. And so I didn't want to reinvent the wheel in terms of the architecture of the main navigation and functionality. So after doing that, I finally got to the point where I could sketch screens. Now, these are digitally created sketches. I created them in an app called Balsamic, and it allows me to use stencils to of components that are commonly used in interfaces, and allows me to very quickly compose, edit, and iterate on screens. So you can see here there are pink dots on each screen. And that's where the user would tap on the screen to go to the next screen from left to right. So after sketching, I got feedback on the screen design, and then I further refined them into wireframes. There's not a huge difference in the sketches that I did and the wireframes, but the wireframes are cleaner and a lot closer to the UI design. It's not pixel perfect, but we're getting into like levels of contrast and spacing and hierarchy that more closely resemble the final product than the sketches do. And I'll let you pause here if you want to see any of the details of the screens. And then combining the task user flow or user task flows and wireframes, there's this deliverable are wire flows. And so you can see that screens are linked to each other and connected by pink dots and arrows. And this allowed me to see the screens in context of a task that a user was going through in the format similar to a user task flow. And so I can think of this as a flowchart, and I can think of it as wireframes. And by like observing both aspects of this kind of deliverable, you can see the app coming to life even before it's prototyped. And a lot of complexity, problems, usability issues, and how it feels to use the app can be simulated a little bit with a wire flow. And so it's quicker than making a prototype, which I did next, and you can iterate a lot more quickly and easily. Speaking of the prototype, I'm going to talk about the prototype that I created and a usability test that I did. First of all, the prototype is being demoed here in this movie, and you can see that each screen links to the next screen, or state links to state. And here the parent is doing an filtering operation on the feed, and several parameters can be chosen to apply the filter. And I'll just let it finish here. So that was a video of the prototype. So I did one round of usability testing, and I was pleasantly surprised to see how few usability problems there were. However, here is one that I found, the main one that I found in round one of the usability testing. And that is when someone posts, they can pick up to 2 topics to tag their post on, which makes it more easily accessible to find via searching and browsing and filtering. Originally, I had somebody write a post and then tag it after that in order to publish. People were not expecting that behavior. They were expecting or wanted the tagging to happen before the writing. The second issue was some people didn't know where to tap to post, but most did. And so I decided to handle that at the UI stage or level. And some participants didn't know what the filter button did, so I renamed it to apply filter, which is more accurate. And after renaming it, just with the text change, I had no usability errors. And some users didn't know that they could pick up to 2 topics per post, so I changed the messaging there. Round 2 of usability testing revealed that the instructions on how to use the app were a little bit confusing and ambiguous, so I rewrote those. And originally, there was a portion of the user's profile called Let's Talk About, where people could pick things that they wanted to talk about with other parents as a prompt or a conversation starter. And people did not find that helpful or valuable and didn't really know what its purpose was. So I eliminated that section of the profile. The third and final round of usability testing it revealed that some people don't know the difference between following a user and getting alerted to a user's activity. This distinction is made on several social networks, so I wasn't as worried about this one. And then finally, these aren't usability issues, but there were concerns about parallel parents. First of all, uh, no one knew how to handle the gender or gender identity issues of naming sons, daughters, moms, and dads. So that's something that will take further research. Second of all, a majority of people said that they didn't want to post pictures of their children, which was originally a prompt in the profile creation flow. So I eliminated that. And people don't really want to write much about themselves or put much effort into writing at all using a social network. Short form typing was preferred. So when users came or participants came across this section, they said they would probably just skip it and leave the text blank. If profiles were blank, that would be a problem for searching and matchmaking on the Parallel Parents app. And finally, uh, people might use this app in inappropriate ways. It's not meant for dating, even though parents can discuss issues with dating. No one is there to meet somebody on the app to date. And some people felt like there will always be people that will break the rules, which is probably true. So we'll have to have some form of moderation, either automated and or done manually. And I'd have to look more into that and seeing how social networks handle this. But that's not unique to parallel parents, so I'm not as worried. And after the usability test, I created a questionnaire for people to fill out, both on the usability of the uh, prototype, but also trying to understand how strongly or positively or not that parents responded to this prototype and if they found it desirable or not. Unfortunately, after about 2 to 3 weeks of trying to get access to single parents for them to both do a usability test and fill out the survey, I wasn't able to recruit more than 4 people. So I'm discounting any of the feedback that I got from the survey because it's not a large enough sample set. But hopefully in the future, I could change that. And the last stage is user interface design and another round of usability testing. So I created the Parallel Parents logo type, came up with a color scheme, developed a typography. Um, uh, I chose typography sizes and fonts in order to use something in the UI to be consistent throughout the app's design. And here are some sample user interface screens. On the left, we have the filtering posts and Brittany, who's a user of the app, and the profile screen there. You have the home feed and then filtering posts on the right. Thank you very much.